Hey guys, this is Daniel from Baltic Gardening. I would love to take this opportunity and take you on a tour around our garden. I started an Instagram account which is called Baltic Gardening as well, roughly 2-3 months ago. And I think now is just a good time and opportunity after I've posted a lot of things in my stories and on my pinboard, just to give you a full-on tour around the garden so you get a better impression of where we are, how we garden, how the garden looks, and just give you more information than I possibly could just on Instagram when you're just writing text. So first of all, where is the garden? The garden is located just outside of the city of Gdansk in Poland. So we are straight at the Baltic Sea, and actually we're very, very close to the Baltic Sea. The house is located on a road, on a dike, next to the river Vistula. And physically, like on the left, you can see our house, and from a top balcony, if we look to the left, so basically behind you, there is the Baltic Sea. So in winter time, when the trees don't have leaves or anything anymore, you can physically see the Baltic Sea, which means all of our weather is influenced a lot by the sea and by the nautical climate. So we often have very rough and strong winds, and not just in winter time, like even mid-July, it can be hot, there is a strong wind. So this is not a thing that is like out of the extraordinary or something. And that explains also why the garden has a lot of hatching, and especially here. So this is the front garden where I'm standing right now. Behind you there's like our driveway, and to your left there is the river Vistula. So the wind comes very, very often from the side, from your back basically. So this is why the entire front garden has hatching around it, because otherwise I just couldn't plant anything here. Literally, the wind can be so strong and comes with such a force that most of the perennials, and especially the grasses, they would just like lay flat on the ground after one storm that we have. So this is just like a little background information about the garden. Maybe just a quick background information about me. I am not a trained gardener, and I am not like a native speaker in English. Like, English is my secondary language, so if I stumble across my words, please bear with me. I'm doing my best. I am also not Polish, I'm actually German, but because of family situation and everything, I moved to Gdansk. I spent most of my time here in Gdansk, and I just love it. It's a beautiful country. It's just like so nice and cozy to live in a city that is just next to the ocean, and I feel so blessed that I am allowed to live here and enjoy the garden and the landscape, the people, the ocean. Everything is just beautiful. But let's just start. Let's start the garden tour. I mean, this is the most exciting part of it all. So as I said, we are in the front garden right now, and as you can already see a little bit in here, the garden works kind of very organic in a way. All the flower beds or the borders, they kind of meander through the garden. So we don't have any like straight line flower beds or anything that is kind of like rectangle in the garden. You'll see it even better like when we go through the garden into the back and the mid part and the back part of the garden. So the front part of the garden, when we started gardening here and we came here, the only thing that was literally here in this area were the hedges and the willow tree, which was a lot smaller compared to how it is looking now. It grows, I would say, each year at least 2 meters. So once a year we need to trim it back, and we need to trim it back hard. And since it's a willow, it takes a lot of the water actually from the flower bed. So I was watering yesterday to make sure that the phlox looked a little better, because 2 days ago the phlox, they were not happy campers. They were really looking sad actually. But still, I think the planting works fairly well here. We are not on any kind of like irrigation system or anything. So if we water, it's literally like manual labor. We collect rainwater from the roof. So we mainly water with the water that we collect. We have like a faucet outside, so we also use city water, but just every now and then. Maybe just if I'm too lazy to use the pump and everything, and I just want to have like a quick watering can, for example. The front garden consists mainly of 2 colors, which is like violet or purple tones mixed with a chartreuse lime green, which you can kind of see quite well here actually. So this is like a nice combination and a good example of the colors that I like for the front garden. This is like a Euphorbia, which kind of ages to more of a chartreuse green color, and I really love it for that. It's late in the season, so it kind of like collapses a little bit, but still I don't really do a lot. I don't stake it or anything because I like this natural, a little untamed look in here. It's combined with a Nepeter. This is Walker Slow. This is like the one Nepeter that I use throughout the entire garden and one of the key and focus perennials that I am using. Behind it, there's an aster that just comes to flower. This is an Asian aster which is called Azran. Again, an aster that I really, really like just because of its growing habit. And the flowers are very pretty and the flowers very, very long. Almost, I would say almost through frost basically. Behind me you can see one of our really nice elements here in the front garden, which is the swing bench. The bench was something that we actually bought and just painted it white, but then the entire frame around it is something that we built ourselves. We're really proud of that. It works out. It's really beautiful, especially in the afternoon. It's super nice to sit there because the sun really hits the bench. You can sit there just with a cup of coffee and a biscuit, with a book, whatever, just enjoy the day. Really beautiful. If we swing around here, there's one example that I was trying out this year for the first time. So far, I was not big on growing annuals, but I thought just give it a go because with annuals, you can be a little more playful. Because when you plant a perennial, the perennial is there. It grows bigger and better, more beautiful and bountiful, whatever. But sometimes annuals give you the freedom just to play with colors because it is, as the name says, it's an annual. I mean, it grows in one season, it flowers, it's beautiful, but then after winter it dies back and it doesn't come back. So if I plant something and try it out and if I feel I don't like it, it's not like a big loss or anything, for example. Like a perennial, you have the perennial, it's going to come back, but the annual won't. So what I tried here for the first time ever are zinnias, and this is called Zinnia Green Envy. Because again, it has this like greenish chartreuse kind of color, and I think it fits really well with the Euphorbia. As you can see, seeds, even though these were seeds that I bought, they don't always come true to the color that is on the package. So I have a little intruder here. So I have a pink one, but I don't have the heart to just pull it out because I think it's actually a really nice color. Maybe I'm going to use it for flower arrangements. When you look at it, like, how beautiful are those? Oh, so pretty, and especially when the sedum starts flowering and it's like really beautiful light pink. I'm like, I think it's going to work. It's going to work for a season. It's nice. Next year, let's see. I think though I'm going to use zinnias again, even though I have to say, I love how they look now, but I would say at least 50% of my zinnias were eaten by slugs and snails. Like they were a slug and snail magnet. I've never seen it like that. Every evening I did the rounds here and tried to collect as many slugs and snails as I possibly could. And I'm really happy for every single one that survived. There are more in the back of the garden where I have a little cut flower area. So this is the only patch in the front garden that survived, and I'm really happy about it. So come on, let's just continue. This here is one of the earlier flower beds that we did that I've just recently reshaped. What I did is just like I've just changed the line and just made it a little more curved. So I just went out maybe, like, I don't know, half a meter or so. But we have this beautiful tree here that I trim back every year very harsh because it grows again each year about at least a meter and a half. And I'm really brutal with that. Like when you see what I do with that in fall, you might be like, oh my God, he's killing the poor thing. But no, it really needs it. It just needs a regime of like pruning it back hard to just get this lovely canopy and this lovely ball shape that it actually has. So again, like I really love this combination. You can see the front garden has a lot of different kind of Euphorbias. There's Euphorbia back there, the one with the bluish leaves right now that flowers very early in spring. Luckily this spring it did because we had a very harsh winter, and that is one of the Euphorbias that can be a little bit on the tender side. So it doesn't appreciate the frost that we get here that much, but this is like south-facing. So the wall reflects the light and the heat, and so far I was very successful with the Euphorbia in that location. Then there's again another Euphorbia here and some tiny offspring that I took because there was a bigger one that didn't make it in winter. It just died back, unfortunately. And then there is another variety of Euphorbia here, which is actually my favorite one. This is called Tall Boy, where the name is kind of funny because I mean it's anything but tall. It grows maybe like 40 centimeters tall, but I just love it for its texture and like it's so lush and it flowered really early in spring, and it does these runners. So it's not like a big clump. It really builds this like cloud carpet effect throughout the border, and I really love that it's doing it actually. It's not invasive or anything. You can really easily control it. When it spreads somewhere where you don't like, you just pull it out and that's it. Super easy, but I think the effect is great, and I really want to focus a little bit more on that euphorbia here. So this is one that I would really recommend everybody for front border planting. If we swing to this side here, this is kind of like the light or whitish part. I had some more blue flowering plants in here, but they just didn't like it that much. So I kind of ended up with it being the white corner kind of the front garden. So we have hostas here. This is called Patriot. This is I think the only hosta I actually grow in the entire garden, and one that I really love because of its beautiful leaf variegation with the white and the green. And then it kind of like matches really well with the white hydrangea paniculata here. And then we have white sedum at the base, which is going to come to flower very soon. I think this is called Stardust, I'm not sure, but what this one does, and I think this is typical for Stardust, I did a research, some of the flower heads, and I can tell you this one won't be white. Some of them will be pink. I don't mind it that much. If you do, it's just a few stems here and there. So this one definitely will be pink, that one will be pink. You can just tell this is pure white already, and this one has a pinkish tint to it. So what you can do is just like go to the base, snip it off and use it for a vase if it really bothers you. It doesn't really bother me that much. And then this is another euphorbia. Unfortunately, I forgot the name, I have to say, but it's beautiful. I could just look it up if anybody has a question and tell you. Just ask any questions anyways. If you find this video interesting or inspiring or anything, and you have a question, drop me a message. I'm super happy for any question. I really try and answer everybody. Beautiful euphorbia. It grows to this beautiful shrub shape almost. Flowers very early as well, and in fall it gets like a nice kind of like golden leaf color. So definitely a beautiful one. So this is kind of like the entire front garden, and then we have this small kind of like gateway here that leads you into the mid garden. And this was again one of the plants I was here when we came here. It's just like some sort of conifer, well, I'm not even sure what it is, to be honest. But we started trimming it into this nice ball shape, and I think it looks really crisp and nice. It's just like this nice architectural element in the garden, because I think you got a good impression by now. Here are a lot of perennials. So mid-March, I normally cut back everything, and then you're left with the bare bones of a garden. So it's really important to have these kind of structures here and there that have like winter interest. I mean, snowdrops and, I don't know, early flowering iris are all cute and nice, and I love them and I have them, but you just need these like bigger shapes in here to have like some sort of interest in the garden. And next to the gateway there is a sumac tree, and I know that this is a quite controversial tree because it creates runners, and this is an old variety and it has runners, so it's spreading like crazy everywhere in the lawn and the flower bed. And since it's just one tree, I'm all right with that. I can tackle it, I could just pull them out, I'm all right. This is not such a big hassle. And every time in October when this tree changes its leaf color, I know why we have it, because it has the most beautiful, beautiful orange glowing leaves you could possibly imagine. When you have a glorious October day with a steely blue sky and then this orange leaf canopy, it's just priceless. It's so beautiful, and also the growing habit of it. It kind of like really meanders through the flower bed kind of. It's really shapen by the wind in a way. It really tries to lean over always to your side, but it's absolutely beautiful. It has to be one of my favorite trees. And as you can see, one thing that I try is like to use same plants throughout the garden. So I had the hosta white patriot in the back, I have it here again. So in the mid garden, I use the white patriot hosta quite often as a focal plant. So this is like the mid-garden section where we are now. And when we came here and decided to transform the space slightly into a garden, the very first flower bed that we ever did was actually the one here. And it was maybe just 50 centimeters wide. And I thought I had a good idea about gardening, to be honest. I grew up in a garden, my parents had a huge garden, my grandparents had a huge garden. So not being horticulturally trained necessarily, when you grow up in the garden, if you want it or not, you just get a lot of information from your parents. You just know what works, what doesn't work. But I was still trying out some new plants. This is an area that gets quite a good amount of sun. And when I planted, for example, like this dwarf lilac here, which is not so much a dwarf anymore, I put hostas here, like Blue Boy or something, like a tall hosta with blue foliage in the full-on sun. It was baking and it just looked horrible. So it was a good learning experience for me, just like to try things out, to test things out, and embrace one phrase that comes from the very famous Beth Chatto that I really embrace now, which is like right plant in the right place. Because once you follow that, you make sure that it just works out really well. Again, here's some like winter greens for structure. So we have some box spheres in there, like 3 of them, like 2 bigger ones and a tiny one that I just popped in the spring. And then we have another evergreen here. Beautiful asters. I don't know which variety it is, honestly. I bought in the local garden center, and the thing about buying things in the local garden center in Poland sometimes is like, you buy a plant and it has no label, no information or anything at all. So it's kind of like, okay, I like it, but I have no idea what it actually is. But this is performing amazing. I bought one plant probably 5 years ago, and I could divide it so many times already that you'll find it in 4 different clumps throughout the entire garden now. So sometimes it's really worth just like trying out one plant, and if it performs well for you, you can create so many more plants from that single one that you bought years and years ago. So here we just like playing with grasses. We have like this tall miscanthus here. This is a Calamagrostis, Carlfirster, Panacetum, which is called Harmon. It looks a little sad this year, to be honest. I mean, it's not bad, but like kind of brownish a little bit at the tips. So I think maybe a little lack of water. I don't know what's going on here. And I can't see any flower heads, unfortunately, this year. So I don't know, maybe, what is your experience? How is your experience with the grass this year? Like, in general, I thought it was a really good gardening year, but the grasses here are looking so-so, I would say. The miscanthus, I can't really see any flowers forming. The Panacetum, I can't see any flowers forming. So, I don't know, maybe it's just a bad year for grasses, who knows. Then here I planted another dwarf lilac, because the one there is performing so well. And I think it's nice just like to have a second one here, so it just echoes basically again here. Then again, the Napida, which we've seen already in the front garden. I told you this is a focal plant, so we're gonna see it definitely a lot more times in the garden. So if we swing over there, this is like our little seating area underneath the walnut tree. So we have 2 walnut trees in the garden, which were here when we came here, obviously, because they're like grown to their full size. They're really huge, and they provide us with so many walnuts. It reaches a point where we're like, oh, we don't know what to do with them anymore. If we go through here, this is basically one of my favorite vistas into the garden, actually. So if you just stand here and look that direction, you can really see when I tell you the garden, how it works, like that the flower beds are meandering through the entire garden, and it looks very organic, kind of. And you can already see how I plant the perennials in the garden, because you can see that most of them are planted in bigger clumps, basically, or bigger drifts. When I go to the garden center, I don't go there and buy like 2 of this and 3 of that and 1 of that one. Normally I go and I buy, I don't know, 40. It's like they get a delivery and I just fill up my entire shopping cart with the entire delivery, and they're like, okay, nothing left. But this is just like what I think I need to do here, just like to get this effect, to get these like big color effects here. This year I really love, for example, the red grass. It's red barren with the red tips, and then in the back you see the helenium, which is also red. So it's like the grass is red and the helenium is red, and it just picks up the color rhythm in here, and something where I feel like I need to do it a little more often to get this just beautiful coloring. So what we have here is basically like the shadier area. So this is why I put some paniculatas hydrangeas in here again. I don't know the variety, unfortunately, because I planted these a couple of years ago and I really forgot which variety it is. But I just love that it has its like chartreuse green flower heads, and they're not so big. They are quite small and delicate, actually. And then again, in the front, there is the aster, this wild aster called Asran, Cedar matrona, and again the aster here, which just comes to flower, really beautiful. This is going to be like an entire cloud of light purple flowers. Again, here you can see like the Cedar matrona. So this is again like a big focal plant for the garden. And the reason on why I love sedum so much are two reasons actually. Number one, it's easy. It's really low maintenance. It doesn't really require a lot. It wants to have good drainage, preferably a lot of sun, which I don't always give it, to be honest, but I kind of figure that even in like partial sun, it really performs well and I'm not disappointed with it. And number two is like, I would say that 80% of the sedums that I grow in the garden here, I propagated myself. And there's nothing easier than just like take cuttings from a sedum and propagate it. Like in spring, when you see the fresh growth flushing, you just nip off the fresh tip, strip off the bottom leaves, and you could just put it into the soil. You don't even need to put it like in a, I don't know, like a tiny container indoors or anything. It's that easy to grow, and it's going to flower the first year. It might even have like multi-branches. So definitely this is my one good go-to plant. If I don't know what to plant, I plant a Cedar matrona. This always works for us really well here. Okay, here you can see an area which is a little complicated maybe. I think it has to do partially with the walnut tree, because the walnut tree takes a lot of moisture, which you can see in the lawn as well, where I'm standing now. It's like the lawn has its lovely summer tan. I mean, it's nice and crisp, bronze. It's not just me going to the beach. The lawn also enjoyed like a lovely tanning this year. So you can tell like the panacetum grass here, which I planted in different areas in the garden, and everywhere else it was performing so beautifully, but here I put 4 grasses in and they are like mediocre to not good. Same like the Veronica here. Like in spring it looked quite alright, and now it's just like, oh, I don't know, it even got mildew this year. So I'm kind of at the point of like, you know what, the sedum performs well, maybe I should just like put more sedums here, a little more nepeta here, and just eradicate the Veronica totally. Even though it's like a nice plant for like wildlife, I've always seen a lot of like bees, bumblebees on it, but it's just not really happy here. So, you know, if a plant is not happy and if it doesn't work, like I don't want to like pamper it to make it happy. So you need to make it work. Then this entire flower bed here is brand new. So what we did is we took out the turf last year actually. We started in spring, did like a third of it, and then in autumn we continued with machine actually, which was a lot better. We've taken out the entire turf, and then in November I started like preparing the soil. So I just put like fresh soil in, I put bone chips in, I put all the edging in, I've already mulched everything. So I've just like made sure that everything is ready for planting. And in May, I believe, May this year, I started planting, and this is what happened basically. So everything that you see in here, but the tree of course, was planted this spring. And I'm so amazed, like honestly, when I can't believe sometimes like how fast perennials and grasses and everything are growing to get this effect. Like it really looks like it's been here forever and for ages. Some plants that I'm trying out first time ever, like the amaranth for example, grow from seed myself. So this is like such a cheap and easy way to get plants. I mean, this package probably cost me, I don't know, maybe €2, not even, I think. It was really cheap here. And I have amaranth here, and then in the back there again, and even in the back, in the cut flower garden, there's a little bit of amaranth. So super happy with those, and I'm determined to do it again next year. Maybe a different variety, I don't know, but I just love it. I love it for its effect, like the flower has and what it adds to the border. I think it's just beautiful. Again, another great focal plant, especially when we're inside and you look to the back and you see the garden, is the phlox here, which is called Goliath. I think it's a fairly new variety. I'm not 100% sure. Oh my God, the wind picks up now, you guys. You could really see what kind of conditions we're gardening in. It's a beautiful color that the phlox has. It's really like glowing, beautiful blue. It's not fuzzy. I bought it already last year, put it somewhere else in the garden because I saw it in the garden center. I was like, I got to have this plant. I was so like excited to have it. And it came back with so much new growth this year. Really happy with this phlox. So if you're in need of like a tall phlox variety, that is your variety. Honestly, it's beautiful. Another plant that I'm trying out first time ever in my life, even my parents or my grandparents never grew it, is Helenium. This is a variety that is called hot lava. And when it came to flower, I was a little like, okay, do I really like it or do I not like it? Because red can be a little troubling for me. I love red when it's more on the bluish side, like pinkish red or something, like the one here, for example, the Bistorta. For me, this is kind of a red, stretched red. Maybe it's more like a pink, probably. But the more I look at the Helenium and this kind of like brick red almost, the more I like it actually. I think it works really well, and especially since there's a lot of aster coming here. Again, aster astron in the front. Then there is another aster variety coming here, which is more like a true purple, like a darker purple. It's called Schöne von Dietlikon, if I'm not wrong. And I think the red with the dark purple will look really beautiful in a combination. Fingers crossed it will, because I've never tried it before, so I hope that it will be a really good combination. And then another plant that really, really excited me, because I've grown it from seed and I'm so happy that it actually came to flower, is Rudbeckia. So this is, I mean, a lot of you guys will know it. It's called Rudbeckia Cherry Brandy. It's a variety that I see a lot on Instagram and on YouTube, so a lot of people definitely grow it from seed, so did I. And I had no idea that Rudbeckia is another magnet for slugs and snails. Like the germination was so good and I was so happy. I've sown them indoors and then I tried to harden them off outside on our driveway. And even on the middle of the driveway, what happened is slugs and snails came all the way and started munging my lovely, lovely Rudbeckia. And I was like, oh God, I was so happy with them and now that. But I think at least 50% made it. And I'm so happy to see what they did and that they're performing so amazing. And I think they're just a lovely addition here because they have almost like the same flower head as the Helenium, just like bigger flower head. So I kind of feel like it echoes it in a really nice way. So if we swing to the left now, you see the other side of the kind of like island bed. This is how I call it because it is kind of like an island actually in the garden. A lot of the plants just echo basically what you've just seen in the new flower bed because I want to have like cohesion in the garden so it's not like too conflicting and too many ideas. One thing that I tried out the first time ever in my life is coleus. Again, I bought it here in the local garden center, so no information, no labeling, no nothing. I asked them how tall is it going to grow, and they were like, yeah, 30 centimeters, maybe 40. So that was a lucky shot, actually it really grew up to like 30 centimeters, which is nice. It comes to flower. So I had no idea how the flowers on coleus would actually look like. They're quite nice. They're like purple flowers, so quite delicate. But mainly you grow it, of course, for the foliage. So I'm really happy with that. Another plant that is just an annual. So once the first frost comes, it's going to hit it, it's going to die back. But this area is definitely dedicated for coleus next year again. Because I think it's just like a nice impact. And all the perennials are nice when you look at the flowers, but they're all green-leaved. So it's really interesting and I think important to have some kind of like leaf interest in here. So this is why I added the coleus here and I added a catinus straight in the middle, like a shrub with this like purple plum reddish kind of foliage. It's still quite small and I don't want to let it grow to its full size, but I think a nice sphere or something would be nice maybe. Because it works really well again like with these kind of blue, reddish, pinkish flowers of the Bistorta in combination. So if we swing around to this side here, we have our veg plot, which is like the old veg plot, actually the first one that we did. Kind of traditional, I think. It has boxwood hatching all the way around it, which we've just clipped, so isn't it looking like smart and crisp now? Really love it how it's looking. And we're one of the areas, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we don't have to deal with boxwood blight, the caterpillar issue or anything. Like boxwood here thrives, it's happy, it's good. Maybe it has to do with the climate at the Baltic Sea, I don't know. If you're at the Baltic Sea and you have the same experience, just share it with me. I'm really excited to hear about it. I know a lot of the people that I'm in contact with from southern Germany, they've had it with their boxwoods. They try to tackle it for so many years now that they're like, off to the compost heap they go. It's just not worth the effort. So I'm really happy that we're just blessed to have them here, and they're so good, so perfectly. In the veg plot, it looks a little blank right now, because actually this morning what I did, I was just pulling out some things that were just bulking. Like we had a salad that was bulking and going to flower, so that was not looking good. Parsley the same. And so this was all this area here. There was like a little strip where we had broccoli, so that was empty anyways. Then what I have here is like some herbs. I have sage and rosemary there. Here, glorious looking, these are the potatoes. But I learned, maybe I'm wrong, but I learned, and I grew up in a very rural farming community, that you harvest your potatoes once the entire top growth just bronzes off and it's kind of dead. And for me it's not, it's still green, there's still a little bit of vigor and life in it, so I guess another 2 weeks maybe, and then I'm ready to harvest my potatoes. And then the last thing here are our autumn fruiting raspberries, and we already picked some, so I can't really show you a lot here maybe. Already got the first raspberries on them. And each year they're looking so good, they're so vigorous, they're spreading unfortunately. But the spring I dug up everything in here, I've rejuvenated the soil, I gave them some fresh new soil, divided some of the raspberries, and I'm happy with that. The result is really good. And we use them, we eat them fresh, we made raspberry liquor out of them, maybe for jam, a preserve. So, such a great fruit, so many ways you could use it. Now, if we go to the back of the garden, you kind of still see the blank canvas of the garden. Well, first of all, you see another issue maybe that I want to talk about, because it's like the elephant in the room now here. We have house guests, we have a mole situation going on. I hope it's not just one, because if that is just one mole, that is the most active mole on planet. But yeah, the soil in this area was looking glorious in spring. It was lush, it was green, it was vigorous, and then the mole came in, and overnight we have piles that are honestly that high. I've never seen it. Like, one pile of soil is an entirely wheelie bin full of soil. So it sometimes takes, I don't know, a good hour just to get rid of all of this here. And the soil is suffering. I'm going to re-sow it, so I think there's nothing you could do. Like when the soil comes up, we don't like step it back in or try anything. There's so much we couldn't anyways. So we just take our shovels, get it to the back, just over the slope it goes. I'm going to re-sow it, and I just hope for the best. Then the back garden. So this is still like a big blank canvas here, as you can see. The site where I am standing now, we just started with, it's not a narrow flower bed or a border actually, it's pretty much like 2 meters I think. Alongside the fence there is a yew hedge that you can't really see right now, because obviously the grasses have grown so strong and tall and vigorous, but they are kind of like blocking the wind. Not right now, as you can see my hair, probably I look really crazy, but whatever. We put our what are those? Sunbeds? I think sunbeds they are called, in here, because this is an area like around lunchtime and really late afternoon, really late afternoon, around 4 or 5 maybe, you get really nice warm sun here, not today, but this is like the perfect location just to take a little rest of a day, a sunbath. So really enjoy it here. And what we discussed maybe is to make a little seating area here. We thought about maybe just building 2 Hampton chairs and maybe like a little fire bowl or something. And just again, like a very natural planting here. Nothing too tall maybe, just almost like sitting in a meadow feel or something. I'm not really sure where to go here, but definitely since we love to sit here, this is a perfect area for another seating area in the garden. Then here you can see is our old plum tree. So we're already harvesting some plums. They're delicious. You always need to open them first because a lot of them have worms inside, because I just don't want to take a bite into it. That might end up a little like a protein snack. Another thing that I tried first time this year is a fig tree, and it actually has tiny fruit on it, but they are hard as rocks, so I'm not sure if this is going to produce any fruit. But this was just like, okay, I love this tree, it's a beautiful tree, but it was like, close your ears, a cheap one from the hardware store. So just to try out if a fig works at all. And I've done research, there are other fig varieties that are a little more hardy and where the fruit will ripen earlier. So I'm definitely going to buy 1 or 2 of those and try it out for next year as one of the projects. What you can see here is unfortunately one of the biggest nemesis that we have in the garden. Not the plums on the ground, it is a weed. It's morning glory. It is a very aggressive weed. It's spreading, it has these like really long roots, and if you try and dig it out, like the tiniest bit of root will definitely come back. Like here, I've taken it all out a while ago, and this is like a mesh of it now. So what I'm aiming to do is I'm gonna buy like an organic weed killer from the United States and try it out next year. When it comes out, I'll just try it. I mean, digging out is not an option anymore. I tried it. I was digging like honestly almost a meter deep, and they're just always coming back. This area is so heavily smothered in morning glory that I was like, I'm not sure what to do anymore. So I need to have another weapon now. Going over here, there's our pear tree. And the area that I'm going to tackle actually next is this area here. Still lawn, but I think it would be beautiful just like to take the flower bed and just really stretch it out here in a big curve, and then curve it all the way back where the green bean pile is. This is actually our compost heap for leaves. But since a compost heap is not that beautiful, I just put beans there. So they kind of like grow into the chicken wire and just make use out of the situation. Anyways, I think this would be just another beautiful flower bed area. And what it does is like, it takes away this like boundary at the back of a garden. We have the fence there, and the fence, I mean, it's just straight. It's kind of like, it really shows you like, this is the border. This is officially the end of the garden. And what I try and do is that this almost kind of like visually disappears. So like the garden and the back area that we're going to look at in a second are kind of like merging together, and it just feels more natural and organic, because we are blessed actually being on the top of a dike, because we have this beautiful landscape in the back that you can see now. It's something that's just priceless. I mean, you call it borrowed landscape, and we definitely borrow the landscape here. And it's just, we have a bench back there that you're going to see in a second. It's just beautiful to sit and really enjoy the landscape as well. It's not just the garden, it's really just like all the areas surrounding us here. So there are the compost heaps. Not that glorious, not going to show you those, but everybody has them, of course. So now we go to the kind of newest project of the garden, which is the end of a dike, actually the slope. And it was always overgrown by weeds, heavily overgrown. And this spring I tackled the entire situation. And what I did is basically I built a few terraces. So it's level, and I have these different levels here where I can garden on. So again, like I tried sedums here, I have some phlox here, sweet potato wine. This is like a little bit of a testing ground so far, but there are elements that I really enjoy and like in here. So I think the sweet potato wine is definitely beautiful. The rose was coming beautifully. And this is an area which really excited me this year. So this is like my cut flower garden area, where I put some dahlias, some cosmos that I was growing from seed as well. And when they first came, I was like, oh my, these plants are so teeny tiny, I'm not sure if anything is ever going to come out of those. And I was sowing the seeds indoors, and they germinated, they were looking fine, they were looking good. Then I put them in the soil, and then they just stopped growing. They were just like, what is this? Why am I not at home? It's cold, it's windy, I don't like it. And out of nothing, suddenly they decided to grow. So I think they're just glorious. I have green zinnias there again, like a sunflower in the back. And what you see here is a big surprise to me, because I've been growing squashes in the past, like a butternut squash, and I was never really that successful with growing butternut squashes. So this year I decided I'm going to grow pumpkins. And I went to the garden center here, and the pumpkins weren't really labeled with what variety they were. They were just like orange pumpkin. And I looked at the photo and was like, kind of looks like a Hokkaido, so let's just try it. So I had, I think, 8 plants in the end that I grew from seed. And they are monsters. I had no idea what could happen with a single pumpkin plant. Like, this vine comes from somewhere back there, and it's just winding through the entire flower bed here. And we have so many pumpkins on them. I'm impressed. There's a big pumpkin. Here's a pumpkin. Here's another beautiful tiny pumpkin. And we already harvested the first one. And they're really delicious. So really happy with those. I might need to have pumpkin till the end of my days, honestly. It's like an amazing harvest. I'm not going to go down with you now, but I think it's nice just to show you a little bit what's happening down there. So this is like the first layer, and then there is like a second layer down there, where you can see some of the plants that I was growing from seed. For example, phlox is one plant that I grew from seed, and they all came true. They're all white, so I'm really happy with that. There's some aquilegia down there, some snapdragons, I've got some lavender, asters, all different things. And the purpose really is to grow them for cut flower reason. And the lowest level was only dedicated to veg production. So I have more pumpkins there. I have four yellow squash plants there. They were looking really good. Bell peppers, red bell peppers performing really well. I had black kale, there was nothing. It was all eaten by slugs, snails, bugs, something, I don't know what. And the pumpkin, you might see it's just growing everywhere. All these big leaves that you can see come from 4 pumpkin plants. So I was like, I've clearly created monsters. But still, they're beautiful monsters. So this is basically the entire garden, and I think it's nice to end it here at our bench, because this is like a bench that I bought this year. Beautiful seating area, especially late in the evening. You sit here just like with a cup of tea. The sun can just enjoy the sunset basically, because the sun goes down behind the fields there. So there's no mosquitoes here, which is beautiful. It's just a lovely spot to sit and end the day. And this is where I also want to end the video with you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this too. I certainly enjoyed it. It's really great fun showing you the garden. I kind of plan on doing more videos like these, not just garden tours. I really want to take you on this journey of transforming the back garden. Like when I talk about doing new flower beds or building gardening furniture, I really want to show you those things. Also how I use a cut flower garden, for example. How I'm going to transform this space here over the years. You see there's still like all this black landscape fabric here, and I just put it there to hide basically all the stabilization. Is that a word? I'm not sure. Well, just to hide everything that I put there, just like to make sure that everything is level. But I think it would be nice to put like a wooden mantle or something on it. So there's so many projects still going on here, and I hope and think it's going to be great fun for you to watch all of these videos coming very soon. So take care, have a lovely day, see you soon, bye.